So the next thing is the subheadline. So the subheadline is super important. The subheadline's job is to support the promise with logic and authority. So you made a big claim, emotional or not, and let me tell you, I know you guys don't believe me, an emotional claim is going to perform so much better than a tactical claim is, right? You're selling, you're selling security and excitement. You got an interesting business because you're selling security, you're selling the excitement of gambling with income that provides security and freedom. I think that a lot of your group, I'm assuming you're still in the same age group I am, they're terrified of running out of money before they run out of life. They're also terrified about having to leave their homes. They want to make money so they can pay for care and not have to leave their home as they get older. The nursing home scares the hell out of them. I mean, to death. So a good subheadline tells you who it's about, how they stumbled upon an answer. There's a Buddha involved, and then they have a thing or a solution for a desired end result, right? So this can be a little lengthy. So I used to use, it's so cool how you can go back and find that NASA invented so many things. So we'll sell like a knife with a Kevlar grip, and Kevlar was developed by NASA. So, NASA develops lightweight space age polymer that whatever. So who's the Buddha? A Buddha is, write this down. This is my own invention, believe it or not. A Buddha is a big, undeniable, dominant authority. Former Nikon technology director discovers, right? New York City Playboy model, Playboy photographer, somebody they admire, somebody that they look up to, somebody they see as you guys in the financial space have used the living shit out of everything to do with Warren Buffett 10,000 times. So Buffett's a Buddha, right? The 7 things Warren Buffett would never invest in, that kind of thing. So former Warren Buffett apprentice, reveals the 7 investments that his boss would never invest in, but the 3 that he always does, right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's Jason Hansen. Yeah, he used to do, same kind of thing. Yeah. So you want, the more Buddha that you can use, the better. But I think the place for a Buddha is in a subheadline. So retired U.S. Marine amputee uncovers the emperor's fountain to beautiful women who live to serve their men. This is 100% made up. This is. Huh? No, you don't make that up. No. It's not about making it up. I'll read you a story in a minute, and when we get to storytelling, you can find other people's stories to tell, right? So I'm going to read you a story in a little bit about a hero story I wrote about a guy that rescued a lady off her roof, during a giant flood. No, the stories are out there. They're pretty easy to find. Just read about them. I'm sure I didn't look this up because this was for the purpose of a class. But I'll bet you I could have found a story somewhere about an amputee who married, who knows an amputee who married an Asian lady? Who knows one? You all do. You all know one. What? Lieutenant Dan, you got a girlfriend. Remember that? There's got to be a real life story about that somewhere. Right? So why did I do this way? Retired U.S. Marine. I didn't have a celebrity or really a Buddha figure to put in there. So people trust military, police, crossing guards. School crossing guard's the first person that you're taught to trust in your life. Do you know that? You don't think about that other than your parents. The school crossing guard and the bus driver are the 2 people that you're taught to trust earliest in your childhood. Right? So people tend to trust Marines. It would make sense that you always see, I figured when I was writing this, you see a lot of former military guys that marry foreign brides because they travel the world, right? But he found the emperor's fountain. What's the emperor's fountain? Hell, I don't know, right? He found the emperor's fountain. Now that part you can name whatever you want. You have fun with that, right? But he found the emperor's fountain. To beautiful women who live to serve their men. What do these guys really want? Who said that? You get out of here. It's offensive. No, but yeah, they want to be looked after. And especially this market, because these are guys, so here's my avatar. My avatar is Al, the truck driver. He's been married 3 times already. No kidding. That's the avatar for this business. He's been married 3 times already. He feels that they were all spoiled American bitches that just took advantage of him. And he's done with American women completely. And he doesn't know that yet, but he's done with women pretty much. But he still wants romance. He still wants companionship. So what's he going to do? What is this? Is this an improvement offer or replacement offer? It's an absolute replacement offer. Now it's time to try something completely different. You've already tried your method, and you're number 4, right? See where I'm going? So just to give you an example, here's how I use this formula here. Attention, marketers, entrepreneurs, and founders, the most valuable skill in the world. That was my grabber. I don't like that it had so many words, but sometimes, they needed words. You need a lot of words. Finally, create irresistible cash-grabbing offers in 48 hours or less without ever writing a single word, guaranteed, or I'll give you my entire system free. You already have this, the sales letter you bought to come here. Right? $400 million master copywriter Perry Belcher reveals his fibs fill-in-the-blanks system for creating multi-million-dollar offers for the first time, every time, live and in person, Las Vegas, June the 12th and 13th. So I was the Buddha here, right? I would say that, like Nate could do the same thing I did and write, best-selling Agora copywriter, right? So for copywriters, Agora is a Buddha, right? They really are. They might not know Nate at all, but it wouldn't matter because he'd have the benefit of Agora. If you're Sal, you say former Goldman Sachs, insider reveals whatever. Have you read the GS Elevator yet?
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome, right? Yeah, it's Goldman Sachs Elevator. The guy, there's a Twitter account for shit people hear in the Goldman Sachs elevators going up and down. And one guy says that somebody lost a lottery ticket. There was a story about a guy lost a lottery ticket for won millions of dollars, lost a lottery ticket. And the other day the tweet was, man, can you imagine what it would be like to win the lottery and then lose the damn ticket? And the other guy in the elevator says, yeah, I can tell you 3 or 4 of my girlfriends that know that feeling. 3 or 4 of my former girlfriends that know that exact feeling.
Why did you write out 400 million in numbers rather than?
I always write 400. Yeah, I would always use the numbers. Okay. Numbers are always better than numbers written. Okay. Use numbers themselves. When you get to price, drop the cents and all that. When you're trying to make a financial claim, which I was directly trying to make a financial claim here, right? And I have absolutely written more than that, actually. But the numbers just look bigger. And I've used grabbers before. One of my grabbers once was like 6,589,243. That was a grabber. And then the headline says, Google gives away millions of websites to local businesses for free, right? And it was like, oh, now the number made sense, right? But just the big number was the grabber, right? Yeah.
I know this is a copywriting class, but would this be more effective with Apple
Yeah, maybe. It depends on the market. I do it in copy because you can really make this conversational and take it to video pretty easy, right? A script's going to have to be a little more conversationalist. You would never want to say, hi, this is Ruth, and finally, create cash. You could say, hey, this is Perry, and if you come to Las Vegas next weekend, I'm going to show you how to create cash-grabbing offers in as little as 48 hours. It doesn't take me really long to write, right? And I don't ever write a single word. I'm going to show you how to write copy without writing. Now, how? Read my letter to find out. I'll explain it to you, right? So I want to be evocative. Yeah, go ahead.
In your testing, if you do this as a VSL, if you found you just want the attention, the grabber, and then the rest is the VSL? Because we run
Yeah,
into
the rest
space
goes as the
issues.
VSL. Yeah,
Okay.
you want the attention. Yeah, that's a good point. If you run as a VSL, you want to do the call out and the grabber, and then you're almost skipping this step and going almost directly to story. So you're going to the deck copy. Actually, is what I do. I want you to, hi, this is Perry, and I want you to imagine this, or do you ever do this, or you imagine that? There are two things I'll get to in a second. When I get to the deck, I'll show you how. At the deck is when I split between positive and negative. So deck copy. So deck copy is, in my opinion, the next headline. So what you've got so far is you've got a call out, attention men 50 to 80, right? And then you got a grabber, American she bitches or American she brats or whatever I call them, something really awful, right? I wanted to write she bitches, but I punked out on that one, right? American she, because that's the way they think of them. They're angry at women, period. They're just angry at women. So, but they still want companionship. I've got my grabber, and then I've got the promise. And the subhead backs it up with the story of somebody. And now I'm going to get to the introductory paragraph. So this is where I'm trying to make my initial connection, right? So I'll usually start with dear friend or dear fellow truck driver, if I'm writing from an affinity position, which would be awesome if I had that. If I were writing to truck drivers, I would change it quite a lot. That goes back to the source. So if I'm running this ad only in Truckers Magazine, I'm going to write to dear fellow trucker, and I'm going to tell the story of a trucker. I'm not going to tell my story. I'm going to tell somebody else's story, and that's okay. So I'm going to start with three things: imagine or identity. I'm going to compound the desire. I'm going to show authority. I'm going to blame the enemy, and reveal the good news and try to get a buy-in. So what's the difference in imagine and identity? If you're selling a want, which I almost always hope that you are, I use imagine. If you're selling pain relief, so there's only toward pleasure away from pain, right? If you're selling toward pleasure, I always use imagine. If you're selling pain relief, I always use identity. So the example is, imagine this is great. Now imagine that's great. Now imagine even greater that this is great, right? That's a toward pleasure pitch. If it's a pain pitch, you follow the pharmaceutical company's leads, right? Are you tired when you wake up in the morning? Are you sometimes nervous in crowded elevators? Does your toe ever tingle at night? Then you could have testicular cancer, right? But that's the way they do it. They ask three identifying questions. So you either want to write three identifying questions for pain, or you want to plant three imagines. Now, again, this is how I do it. You might develop your own style and do it completely differently. I'm sure that some of you guys that write copy do this differently. This is the base, though. This is how I teach my folks to do it so that they can give me back a pretty good piece. I can edit a copy piece in 30 minutes. So I love to give my people this, teach them the skill, have them write me a piece, and then give me back something to edit. I love that. I hate starting from scratch. No, you don't mix them ever. So either it's a negative, remember, it's either a negative message or a positive message, right? If it's a negative message, do you live at home where people might not be able to reach you in case of an emergency, comma? Have you ever slipped and almost fallen and thought about how awful it would be if you broke a bone? Are you old as shit? Yeah, no, just kidding. But yeah, but asking three questions that you know hit their fear points, then I've got good news for you. Let me tell you about whatever, right? I think today, Agora is finding that their pain pitches are falling on deaf ears right now. Yeah. And is that fairly true? Is that fair to say?
Where's the money match, guys?
Negative pitches are kind of sucking right now, right? Yeah. So negative pitches there's definitely been a shift in the market. The earth is ending tomorrow shit ain't flying right now. What's flying right now is marijuana stocks, cryptocurrency. What else is up in ClickBank right now? Gambling. So people are willing to take risk and long shots right now. BizOp, gambling, penny stocks are hot. I would love to write a penny stock offer. Penny stocks are hot again, just out of nowhere. They've been laying dead for the longest time, and now they're hot again. So because the market wasn't right for them, the condition wasn't right. They're risky.
Well, that's because the market's up.
Yeah. Well, then the market's up is part of it, and part of it's just there's just an overall feeling of comfort amongst the people who invest in the market, which at a consumer level are primarily middle-aged Christian conservatives, right? All right. So here's an example. Man, I used this in this case. I used man instead of dear friend, because I want to talk to a guy like I'm talking to him at a coffee shop, like he's my buddy. I'm talking to my avatar, my one guy, right? Man, imagine the look in your ex's face when she sees your new model girlfriend on Facebook. Imagine walking in the room with a woman so stunning that all the conversation stops. Now imagine the comfort of knowing that this woman is different than any ordinary American woman and only has eyes for you. Hi, my name is Mark, and I was just like you, but I only had one leg and never even tried to talk to girls. This letter is a joke, but I'm telling you, this letter would work as it's written. Here's the thing. You always want to write in a position worse off than them, like by a lot, right? There was a guy named, I think it was Marvin Dignard was his name. He was a big guy in Herbalife early on. And he weighed 440 pounds when he started Herbalife, and he lost down to like 180 pounds. He was the poster child for Herbalife, not because everybody needed to lose 220 pounds, but if you needed to lose, he lost 220 pounds. If you need to lose 20 pounds, it'd be a can of corn, right? So just keep that in mind. But notice these things, by the way. Have I said anything about sex yet? Have I said anything about romance yet? None of that stuff. I'm pushing emotional buttons, right? Because this guy wants to be like, fuck you. Look at my hot girl. Every dude wants that. They all want it, right? And because they know it'll drive their former women crazy. The pride of walking in the room. What is that? So what's the first thing? This is dopamine, right? That's dopamine. I'm going to get a prize, and I'm going to pop it up here and show everybody to kiss my ass. The next thing is status. So I'm hitting serotonin here. I want the status of walking in the room with a woman on my arm who's a trophy, right? I want them to feel that. Think about that. Now imagine the comfort of knowing this woman is different than any other ordinary American woman. She only has eyes for you. What drug am I trying to hit there? Somebody? Oxytocin, right? Belonging and love. Hi, my name is Mark. I was just like you, but I only had one leg. So I never even tried to talk to girls, right? I was afraid, just like them. So the reason I use that, what I would do right here is, by the way, inject imagery, right? And I'll show you the one I would inject. I just Googled it and found it. But this ad is my favorite ad maybe of all times of all print ads. This is Pace Products. When's the last time you made $3,150 an hour? And then they got this guy's picture. Do you need to read the ad? I'm serious. Do you need to read the ad? You look at that ad and go, if that idiot made $3,100 an hour, I'm going to make $1 million. You don't need to read the ad. Smiley dude. I got a big check. Desired end result, right? Here's what the end looks like, right? Smiley face dude, probably never had a win in his life. Notice he's got pencils in his front pocket. You think that's accidental? Hell no. That ad's still running. That guy's got to be dead 20 years. Right? So I was fiddling around just digging photos, and here's what I found. Right? You can't see that he only has one leg in the picture, but just a little stump down there. But anyway, but yeah, I would definitely put imagery in right here. Okay?
Positioning of the writer.
Yeah.
So you were worse off than the reader.
Yeah.
and now you're better off than the reader.
Yeah.
And if you could do it as the writer,
Right.
the reader.
And
can
I
do
think
it
the
too.
more flawed you are as a character, the better. I think it helps me a lot.
But I'm better off than the reader now as I'm writing it.
Oh
now,
yeah.
right?
You're better off as a reader now.
Right.
And I think the more flawed the central character, the better. Like I think one of the reasons I do pretty well with crowds and teaching is because I'm a uneducated redneck shit kicker, and everybody knows it, right? So they're like, if that guy can do it, I think I can do it. Where you got a Roland back there who has a totally different pitch. Roland is, I'm way smarter than you, right? But that pitch works too. It just works to a different group of people. I would bet that if Roland, Ryan, and I went up to the same group of people and pitched the same thing 3 different ways, we would probably sell fairly equivalent amounts, but to totally different segments of the audience. I'm the John Daly of marketing, right? I'm the guy that the rednecks are out at the golf course saying, whoop the shit out of it, Johnny. You know,
Well, you
I'm
did
not
it.
that
You did
guy.
it with the opening slides, at this event.
Yeah,
So
I do that
If
for-
nobody knew you,
Yeah.
like you did it.
Self-deprecation.
Right.
I always do that because it's truly who I genuinely am, right? But I become a caricature of that as I'm in public, right? So you guys see this though? This guy goes, wow. Now this ad probably might not be the best because this guy's actually a little too close to this chick's age. I'd much rather have a guy considerably older, right? And there's lots of photos of these guys on all the matchmaking sites and stuff. If I were going to do this offer, I'd find a guy uglier than him, older than him, smoking a cigarette. Be awesome. Yeah, with a John Deere hat on, right? In his wedding photo. Yeah, that's my dude right there, right? Yeah.
There's some farmers dating site.
Farmers Only. It's the fastest growing website, fastest growing dating site in the world. FarmersOnly.com. You know why? Because what's the number one thing women want in a dating profile? Honest. And they feel like good old Jimmy the farmer's going to be honest. Because his only option are some goats back in the shed. I love this story. Ron White tells a story about Tiger Woods. He says, his wife's like, that Tiger Woods, he's just disgusting. She said, what's disgusting about him? He said, he cheated on his wife. Well, your friend's husband cheated on her. Yeah, but he only did it once. Yeah, because he only had one damn chance. Out of 25,000 women that want to have sex with Tiger Woods a week, he only had sex with 18 of them. That's called true love. He loved that woman. You know? It's a much tougher gig. All right. So now you futurecast. Today, I'm married to the most beautiful person I've ever met. You notice I didn't say woman. A beautiful person means they're more beautiful. A beautiful person means beautiful on the inside, right? We've already established physical beauty. So now let's talk about inside. I'm married to the most beautiful person I've ever met, inside and out. She loves me for who I am, right? And I've never been so happy. She's nothing like mean-spirited, entitled, and downright lazy American she-brats. You know the type. Look, if you've been unlucky with women, know this. It's not your fault. Take it from me. There are a lot of great women out there in the world. You just need to know where to look. If you'll give me the next 10 minutes, I'll share with you what I've learned over the last 10 years with Mongolian girls. Deal? That's called an agreement. So I'm trying to reach an agreement, right? So you guys going back, the parts are the imagine or identify, compound the desire. So basically compounding desire is just reminding them of the pain, right? Show your authority. Well, your authority is you've already done it, right? If you had other authority to show, you could. Blame the enemy. Who's the enemy? American she-devils, right? Those are the enemies, right? And then give them the good news and get them to buy in. So like here, you can see it's not too dissimilar. Imagine sitting down with a few laminated worksheets and a few dozen numbered cards. Voila, you emerge a few hours later with a brilliant piece of copy and a compelling offer that will rival that of master copywriters. Imagine getting into your prospect's head on a chemical level, explain your product and services in a crisp, direct, and easy to understand way, and paint the picture of huge value you create in the lives of your clients. And imagine the pride of literally conjuring cash out of thin air creating compelling messages and offers that literally suck cash out of your list, your visitors, and even 10x your ad spends. Better still, imagine never being ripped off by a high-priced BS copywriter ever again, never painting over a blank sheet of paper or being held hostage to a third-rate employee just because you need a copywriter. The same formula, exactly, right? Nothing is different about those two offers. So, but you guys get the general idea. It doesn't change, right? This control continues to be really hard to beat. Imagine, imagine, imagine. If they're going toward pleasure, really hard to beat. So, but just still remember my boiled chicken rule. Just don't say, once you've done that, you've just finished the hottest part of your sales letter. Everything from here becomes considerably more benign, okay? These are 3 books I really recommend. Irresistible Offer by Mark Joyner is great at helping you to create your keystone statement or your key promise. I think it's the best book on the subject written. Blue Ocean Strategy is great at letting you become, like you were talking about earlier, Laura. Laura was talking about yesterday, you know, the first man to cross the Atlantic Lindbergh, the first woman is, you know, so maybe you're going to be the first, maybe you're going to be the first double amputee to fly over the Atlantic. You know, that's a thing, right? You could be a thing. You create your own blue ocean, your own thing to be, right? And then the boron letters from Gary Halbert. Actually, if you want to, if you really want to be a copywriter, I'll give you a homework assignment, but nobody will do it. I did it. Everybody asks, how did I really learn to write copy? And probably, I was already writing copy 3 years before I did it, but I downloaded all the Gary Halbert letters, all of them, and I wrote them all by hand, one time. I wrote them all on legal pads. I just looked at them and wrote them, and it's just a fucking amazing, because Gary was just a genius. I mean, he really was. There was no explaining his genius, I don't think. I think he was just a damn genius. But if you write all those, so a lot of my writing style, Bond and some of the other folks have told me that my writing style is probably closer to his than a lot of other people's, because that's how I learned, right?